The world is shut down. We are not. We took a little break that was already scheduled for some anniversaries and just a little lifetime fun. We are back, which means it's time for Verbal Tap, the show that proves fighting is easier from outside the cage. Because outside the cage, people don't accuse you of fake tapping. That's just something that happens a little bit. Kevin Lee's got to deal with it for a lifetime. He's like, I should take 2 years off. Either way, fighting way easier from outside the cage. I am your host, Kevin. With me, of course, Raph Esparza. Raph, how are you doing?
No one even remembers that fight, Kevin.
It happened. It was one of the last things that happened. Surely they remember Gilbert Burns knocking out Damian Maia.
No one remembers that anymore. You know why? Because everything's on hold. And you know what? This coronavirus came around the time when we're doing our 400th episode, which is kind of a dick move. So
just look, a little advance notice. What about 402? 397 was available.
Would have been fine.
This is rude.
Now, granted, we know most people are around and available, but it is kind of entertaining to hear some of the excuses we have from people who are like, yeah, I can't really do this. Because you're like, I know what you're doing. I see on your Instagram. You're literally sitting at home. No, we actually had an idea for who we wanted on the show, and it was actually super easy to get. But that's not the point. The point is, Kev, is that...
You calling our guest easy? Right here before he comes online? Right here.
Don't do that. Oh, that's the sound clip that's going to go out. Well, what I would say to you is this. To those who said we couldn't make 400, I don't know that anybody said that. Do you know?
I don't, but you're hitting on something. I was at the gym Wednesday before it closed down, and I think it was Biggie playing, but his first album was one of the albums where he's like, I don't know that it was Biggie. He was a rapper in the early 90s. It was like, to everybody that said I wouldn't amount to shit, this album's for you. I was like, fuck yeah. I love the spitefulness on 5. That's this thing that they used to do in the 90s, which is where they would preface their CD or their album with a little this is fucking not dedicated to you assholes. Like, it was a passive-aggressive thing. So I love your statement. I don't remember anyone being like, there's no way you all got to 400, but I love the narrative.
No one said that.
But to the people that did, to the people that thought it, to the people that just thought 400 was a high number, this episode's dedicated to you.
Right. And the song in question is, I believe, Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G.
When my Algebra 2 teacher said, you talk too goddamn much, this is for you.
Wait, hold on. Did that really happen?
I got in school suspended because I got into it with my algebra teacher. We just didn't go along.
Tell me more about this. I didn't know that.
It's not worth bothering here. It was nothing compared to the feud I had with my Spanish teacher. Day one, the only teacher that didn't like my sister, only teacher. Everybody else, I was such a severe disappointment because they were like, but your sister was so sweet and nice. Like, what the fuck is this? Is this the youngest? They always give up on the youngest. But the algebra teacher was an early on feud that just, a lot of budding hormones out of me, a lot of bad teaching out of her. What are you going to do?
Funny, I never had a good Spanish teacher.
Oh, really?
I want to tell you guys this. No, well, first of all, there's a lot of expectations when you come in with the name Esparza into a Spanish class.
I bet.
And
Southern Cali.
I tried to be honest about my recollection of Spanish, and I said, I should just go into the regular Spanish course. This teacher was so aggressively hard on the way that they graded. She accused me of cheating while everyone else was cheating around me and I was not. So she looked like a combination of, I don't know if she's passed, so whatever. She looked like Mrs. Doubtfire a little bit. So there was definitely a lot of hello, but like we would do it in Spanish, of course. So
I like that we still refer to it as Mrs. Doubtfire, as though it's not technically Mr. Doubtfire. I like the stance. We're all like, no, we're in.
Anyway, the important thing to note here is, as I was trying to be honest with this Spanish teacher and my situation, all of the AP kids literally abused that teacher for the AP course, stole his grade book, gave themselves all A's, and then he would just go, please stop. And the kids essentially ran the asylum. So cut to me working hard just to get passing grades in regular Spanish, while all my friends who were supposed to be smart were like, we just totally ruined the system. Woo! And ladies and gentlemen, that's how we have politics today. So if you ever see your senators just embezzling money or, selling their stocks at a certain point, you're not surprised. That's what happens. Shit. Fuck you, smart kids.
Indeed, Raph. Today on the podcast,
anyway,
we have all-star guest Brandon Mccaghren. We're going to get to him right now. It's episode 400, and I mean, I don't want to call him the Logan Paul of the grappling community because of his online presence. It's almost more of a Bieber type fusion. Whatever. You intro this guest. Black belt, online extraordinaire, unbelievable teacher, but you go ahead because I'm going to get practiced up over here.
How am I supposed to do better than that? The Logan Paul of our sport? Wow. I've always seen him more as the Jake Paul of the sport, but I guess the real thing about our guest today is he's one of the most recurring guests on the show that we've ever had, that we wanted to go deep. We wanted to get somebody who we haven't had in a little bit, but also somebody who's near and dear to the show. I believe this is somewhere in the episode region of number 10 or so for Brandon. I would have to check the records, but he has been a near and dear favorite, and he's gone on to do amazing things. He has like 9 shows of his own. He has BrandonMC.Ninja, which is his site where you can go check out his instructionals and his techniques. Kev, just think about all the list of the things that he's done since we had him on our very first episode with him, which is he also broke the internet by beating up a wrestler. He's continuously done things that have done amazing.
That broke the internet. He's done a lot of breaking.
It's true. A lot of breaking and a lot of breaking of hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Brandon Mccaghren. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Dude, I'm awesome now. That was great. I want to come on every day, just have y'all talk nice about me.
Well,
we've stolen enough of your online content that I guess we feel like we know you. Can I ask you this? Now that you teach so much, you lead a lot of your online forums are really effective. I lead a group of people virtually professionally, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what you do. Do you find more people feel like they know you than know you now? Is that a recurring thing?
Yeah, that is. We were just talking about that the other day because I was talking about how like I feel like that, and I have like 9 fans. I was thinking about like how somebody like Rogan must feel. And he's like one of the most important voices, or one of the largest voices, at least in the world right now. And everybody thinks they know him. It's got to be crazy.
Yeah, Oprah for white guys. We've been doing that for a while for him. When do we settle family business here, Raph? Because I heard that Brandon was purposefully not coming on this podcast because I am indebted to him. I owed him a song, and I heard there was some distance and some flaws. That's just what I heard. Brandon, can you confirm or deny there's been some tension between you and the podcast?
Yeah, I'm going to confirm that right now. I'm here to confirm it.
And for a
tension.
Super nice person, can you remind people at all how you remember the bet and what's been missing?
I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't remember very much about it at all.
Then this is going to be a huge surprise.
Allow me to get some investigative journalism here.
Raph, go ahead and serial this shit for him. NPR for
why? You don't know why you're mad at Kevin. You just know that you're mad at Kevin.
I remember I'm supposed to be.
No! We don't hand you.
I have been stressing about this goddamn song for 72 hours for no reason at all. For 0 reasons. That feels so good.
Because here's the beautiful part. Okay, so we have built in a game show within our show, and it's usually an excuse to bring on friends that we want to talk to again. Now, there's a certain sense of facetiousness to it, but the bets are always real. And when Kevin didn't do the bet in a time that Brandon found fair, Brandon in real life was telling me, well, tell Kevin, where's my song? And I'd be like, well, okay, we're not on air right now, so I don't have to do that, right? And he would be like, no, seriously, tell Kevin I want to hear my song now. And I think
There was a spiteful message. He left us a spiteful message for episode 300. He's like, he sang a little song that sounded beautiful because he's a massively talented guitarist and vocalist, which infuriates me. In addition, I saw him fucking around with the electric drum set. Now he's on my corner. But you left a message. See, you were like, see, Kevin, it's not that fucking hard. And it was like, wow, shots fired.
I think that probably wasn't that bad.
We'll see if we can dig up that file, but
you're just more dangerous. So I overcompensate for my purple beltness with anger. You've got the calm tranquility of a black belt. So
anyway, Kevin, did you have something that you wanted to tell Brandon?
Yes, I do. This song is written for and dedicated to Brandon Mccaghren, the jiu-jitsu community. If you don't know who he is, I have a new product that's going to blow your goddamn mind. It's called the internet. 'Cause he's Brandon, and he's always online. Yes, he's Brandon, and he's always online. Well, online jiu-jitsu is everywhere. From Keenan to that guy that used to train Keenan. But go to BrandonMC.Ninja. Learn the tips and tricks that get you. And be better at jiu-jitsu in no time. 'Cause he's Brandon. And he's always online. Like a lot. Yes, he's Brandon. Maybe too much online. Where you can do a lot of things with 1 minute. Like drink a Coke, maybe smoke a J, if you're old enough. But I'd Google the BMAC attack, and I'd subscribe to this 1 minute hack. Your jiu-jitsu will be better in no time. 'Cause he's Brandon, and he's always online. He's Brandon. Seriously, he's always online. So this third verse is dedicated to the challenge.
Okay.
And it's a little adult. So I just wanted to warn people.
Is it the one that gets cut during concerts? Do they just
This
go
one is
straight?
definitely getting cut off the CD. Yeah, this one doesn't make the CD.
This is the album.
They only
Correct.
play it during the concert.
Correct. Yeah. Well, Pamela and Tommy Lee surely started it. Paris Hilton perfected it in 04. Then a guy walked into his gym. Brandon consensually willied him. And another online star is born. 'Cause he's Brandon, and he wet willied online. Yes, he's Brandon, and this tape is online. One more time, he's Brandon, and he's always online. That's a live performance. You'll get a video in the mail.
Dude, that's incredible. That's probably the greatest song that's ever been written.
Well,
that's my first impression.
His first take, definitely one of the better live acoustic performances on this podcast. Not the best.
Yeah,
certainly not the best. Top 5.
Truly hit Howard Stern level of playing on a show. Brendan, tell us your initial reaction to this. I need you to evaluate it like you would a jiu-jitsu technique. So take me through it. Walk me through how you would break down this song.
Okay, well, I got to be honest. The opening was a little shaky. I didn't know where we were going with the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of felt like you were a little uncertain with your grips initially,
Amen. Every time I string the G, there's a little uncertainty.
Yeah. It seemed like, though, as things progressed, you got to laugh here, you got to laugh there. The confidence started coming on, and you started to kind of find your spot. And then by the time it floated around, you got to verse 3. I could tell that was the one you liked the best, and you really delivered on verse 3. And I thought you closed strong, and you came out with the big dub in the end. Nice job.
Spot on. Well, a bet's a bet. Debt's paid. So hopefully we can bury the hatchet you had forgot about. But now that we've reminded you, hatchet buried. We undug it, showed him to it, buried it.
Brandon,
Perfect.
do you have other sorts of issues with people that you've forgotten over the years? Is this the only one that we're aware of right now?
I've probably got all kinds of things like that.
The boogeyman shows up to his door. He's like, "Who are you? Are you just a tatted biker?"
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I've been hitting the head a lot. Yeah.
Well, hold on. So we want to give you some applause as well. You just released, and this is a good segue into something a big chunk of the jiu-jitsu community is doing right now, because we're all sequestered. We're not allowed to go do the thing that we all love doing the most, which is incredibly close contact with a large variety of our friends and strangers. You released your triangle course for free. You've been kind of pioneering an online community that's a little bit more interactive, in my opinion, than many. Why the decision to release the triangle course? What kind of feedback? And we just want to give you a compliment that you did it. But talk us through it.
Well, it wasn't like a big, long thought process or anything like that. I just thought everybody's going to be locked up at home for a couple of days, and here's a opportunity to kind of do something nice. So it's not like it didn't cost me anything to do it. So, it was easy to do, and I was happy to do it. But yeah, the response has been really good. We've had like 3,500 people download it in the last day. So
no one's been like, my neighbor was being a jerk. This is exactly what I need. And it's like, I'm sequestered with my significant other and things aren't going well. I got to learn this triangle course. None of that? Just positive?
Yeah, I haven't heard that yet. I'm looking forward to hearing that now. I really actually long for the day to get some feedback like that. All right.
I use this to stay off my fiance after I ate the last Hostess powdered donut today.
Ooh, now's a great time to have Hostess powdered donuts. What with the quarantining and whatnot. If there's ever been a good time for them, it's now.
The rules are off. Did you know they made a cereal out of those, by the way? They made a cereal it's just little tiny powdered sugar donuts of Hostess.
Listen, I am not the kind of fella who likes a fancy cereal.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it simple.
Like a Frosted Flakes situation? What do you mean?
Yes, yeah. Frosted Flake, though, is the fancy version. There's a corn flake.
Oh, excuse me.
Simple.
Okay.
But now I like a Frosted Flake, but that's how fancy I go. When I get the Frosted Flake, it's like, okay, we ain't going no further than that.
Your son's like, can we get some Cheerios? You're like, we can get some Basic O's 2 drawers down. That's what we can do. That type of.
Yeah, we can slide on down there and get those. Now, I don't believe in generic cereal either, though. You got to get the good stuff.
Oh, well, I'm completely confused now, Raph.
Oh, hold on.
No,
Let
dude,
me see if I can paint a picture.
Listen, bro, here's the way it works. You don't get cheap Bobo Rice Krispies. You get Rice Krispies. And then if you want to get crazy, you get Frosted Rice Krispies, which are, in fact, the best cereal behind Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But it don't get no crazier than that. I don't need no Fruity Pebbles. I don't want to hear about your Hostess donut cereal.
I felt triggered, by the way, he
Star
said
Wars
Fruity Pebbles.
Corn Pops.
Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles is too much.
There's a Star Wars shaped corn pops? Is that a real thing?
I don't know.
At our fact checker.
There's got to be.
Hold on. I want to say, I was going to try and build a picture here because the picture I have in my head is of Brandon wearing a top hat when he does want to get his frosted cornflakes. When he walks in, he's like, today we're going to the fancy aisle. And he comes in, top hat, cane, and, Dale tucks all the way through, gets it in, gets it out. You know, Brendan, I have to say, given our lack of ability to really make content at this time, I would think that one thing that would be fascinating to do is to tell some of our athletes to actually film what they're putting in their shopping carts, because this opened up a lot of different avenues for me to ask you about. Kev, can I tell you one not embarrassing thing about Brandon, but one thing that has endeared him to me even more?
Please. Well, do you have anything embarrassing? I'd go with that category. But you know what? Go with endearing. Go for it. No, go ahead.
It's more embarrassing to me, I think, when I'm around him. But I would say one of my favorite Brendan memories is that if you ever hang out with people after training or, at some point after there's a big event, you're always around these world champions who are watching what they're eating, and sometimes they'll splurge. But if you ever order a soft drink, there are many people who are very health conscious who will look at you as if you don't know that's a bad thing. And Brandon saw me order one, and he saw me get I think it was like a Coke or a Diet Coke, and he just looked at me and he goes, "Attaboy, you do that." And I was like, where did that come from? Why is there support for me having a soft drink? And I got to tell you, when you do this for as long as we have, there is so much judgment of when people silently are like, so you get soft drinks, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And Brandon, for like out of the blue, just perfectly telling me like, hey, you don't let that change who you are. And I was like, thank you.
That's right. That's right. Really, Rob.
Well, Brandon, you remember what it was like
I like
to be
that that's your favorite part.
There's so many little things that I think, because that's the hard part, Brandon. You're on camera. You get what I've seen through hosts, what we have experienced on a small level as well, but that there's never really a hello from people. It's just they know you as somebody on air. They've heard about you. They've heard about your training, your things at home. So they just kind of come up, and there's never like, "Hi, my name is this person." It's usually like, "Hi, Brandon. Tim here. What's going on, man? I've been having these issues with my left hand," and you're just like, "We're already here. Okay, cool." So I think it's important that people know that, yes, you are very much you when you are off camera. So it is very funny to run into you. Let me ask this, Brandon,
All right.
because I think it's important that sometimes we give our guests the ability to ask us things. So I want to let you have the open floor to ask myself and Kevin anything that you've ever wanted to ask each one of us individually. Now, granted, you had more beef with Kevin, so I don't know if you want to start with him first, because we're part of this healing process. So
yeah,
I open the floor to you.
As far as I'm concerned, the healing is done. The healing's done. It's all good. We're good.
Verse 3 sealed it. I could tell.
Yeah, dude. Verse 3 nailed it. Yeah. I think that should go on the single. I think that's radio friendly. I think we're okay.
I actually did listen to your He Dominated Eddie again, and it's been stuck in my head for 3 days. But it's a really great sequestering activity. Just for those out, if you haven't Googled it, Google He Dominated Eddie. It'll make you happy, especially if you're a grappler.
Yeah, if you know the story, it will. If you don't, it may not. I wonder if people haven't watched it, if it would make any sense. Probably not.
I don't know. Maybe you have to know what Metamoris is, but there is footage. That's the beauty of the added clips. Some of us remember when you just released it as a acoustic song that night, because I feel like you did it within minutes of the match ending. I could be wrong.
I think it was the next day. Yeah, I think it was the next day.
Because then different time in the internet, but then your friend added just amazing images, including some shots from the match.
Yeah,
super helpful.
Stormtroopers and stuff in there. It's crazy.
Well,
okay,
Kev,
so here I do have a question.
Go ahead.
All right, I got you, Kev, right here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how long you worked on that song.
Okay, so truthfully, this is actually going to be sad. This is going to really hurt. Years? I feel like maybe the first few weeks after I had a lot of hubris. I was learning the guitar. I've been a drummer since I was around 10. I was in a family band. My dad's an unbelievable guitarist and vocalist. We did a lot of fairs. A lot of, just weddings and local Kansas stuff, but even the Kansas State Fair a few times, which is a blast. But the guitar stuff, as Raph was like, "You sure you're ready to write a song?" And I was like, "Shut up, Raph, I got this." So this song lyrically, I have like 4 different versions of it because I tried to write a rap, I tried to write just a false tale, and so this one is actually I truthfully honed on it about 2 weeks ago because we were talking about episode 400. It was like, well, maybe it's finally time I just sing a song to Brandon so he'll come back on the show. Now that was before I knew you forgot about the feud, but I'd say 2 weeks ago it started to take shape with the chorus. And then
I'm into it. I think it was good.
Well, I want to add some drums.
I couldn't hear the guitar so much.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear the guitar that much.
Okay,
so
that's a problem.
I need to hear a recorded version.
Absolutely.
You know?
You'll get a recorded version. I just wanted to give people
make
a
sure you
reason.
auto-tune that voice a little bit.
You know it. You know I'm going to crank that auto-tune on GarageBand. Are you kidding?
Fucking come with your perfect pitch at him.
Yes, you shut up with your southern goddamn draw, your angelic voice.
Oh, that was mean.
But it was black belt. It was black belt-esque in the insult / here's a suggestion that doesn't demean you totally.
Can I bring up something real quick? Okay, Brandon, you're not the only one who had feedback for Kevin. I did. And, I was trying to tell him early on. I was saying maybe we should make it something that's influenced by something that Brandon likes. And I happen to know that you love Temple of the Dog. And I said, wouldn't it be great if there were layered vocals so that you have the main one and the refrain, so that you've got Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder, the best of both worlds? And I was like, why don't we do that? And then I heard Kevin sing and I was like, maybe we shouldn't. And then I also remembered, as much as I want to jump in and I'm like, I think I know this chorus, Skype time is a different beast. So I'm pretty sure I would have thrown Kevin off if I was coming in going like, and I grow hungry. If he's already on verse 2, it just wouldn't.
No, I have a whole plan here to polish this thing up. I just wanted to go with the Howard Stern. I have a whole drum beat that's ready for that chorus. You're not prepared.
I'm pumped to hear it.
I was also trying. I was like, the first verse would be cool if it was something that wasn't vitriolically offensive to people under 17. Right. So that was where I was like trying to layer it.
So they can slowly fade off.
Exactly. Okay. You can only listen to the first verse. That's it.
And don't think, Brandon, that we didn't figure maybe we should. Don't think that we didn't figure that maybe we should put this out.
Still listening.
Oh no!
See, he's talking shit again. It went from greatest song I've ever heard to a little pitchy to I don't think people are going to tune for the third verse, Kevin.
Kevin, if I'm being honest, this is exactly what happened once you gave Paula Abdul about 2 drinks after American Idol. She would be like, I love your energy, but man, does your pitch suck worse than mine.
I've gotten a lot of I love your energy in my life. That's certainly.
Okay, Brandon, do you have a question for me?
No.
Okay. Well, that seals that.
Diet Coke or Coke Pepsi Zero? Which is it?
Yeah, I know. It's okay. I'm just, maybe one of the best interviewers in all of jiu-jitsu, and I always have a question at ready.
That's not a question, Let me here. I got a question for you, Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the part of your jiu-jitsu game? Obviously, you're not training right now. Don't train right now.
Fair.
But right before the Rona, what was your go-to offensive technique that you were just coming around on, like you were getting excited about?
Duck and cover was probably number 1. No, what would I say? Right now, I was actually... So this is something that I feel is a credit to instincts that happened when I first started as a 10th Planeteer. And I was hitting a lot of electric chairs recently. And it was mostly because I think what happens is if you start off 10th Planet and you go away, there are some instincts that never fully go away, but they just come back out of like the blue and you go, oh, I remember day 3 we did this. Oh, okay. And then it just happens to be a good move that you can pull off that you never were able to pull off to this extent. So I would say something to that extent, and just trying to, mess around in half guard. But can I say this? And this is the thing that's really aggravating to me. The thing that really pissed me off was I have a new job right now that takes me off of training on regular hours. So I would have to find super 6 a.m., train real quick. Yeah, I know, it's terrible. Find a way to like get in with a good partner and just to, like really try to aggressively train as much as possible. And what ended up happening was I was just starting to get a rhythm of training like that before Rona 2020. And so I was so happy because I also got in one day just because I felt like I was really on a trek of something. One of our buddies who does striking was like, "Hey man, let's hit some pads." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's be these people." The next day, don't ever leave your house. And it's like, oh well, I guess I'm getting fat for a month and a half. Cool.
Dude.
Can I? Cool. Okay, Brandon, you're a black belt.
You're not gonna get fat, dude. Are you gonna just let go just because you got to stay inside for a couple of days? Come on, man. You're gonna be more.
Brandon, can I ask you this? Because I need you to guide me on this. When you see all of these people on the internet saying, "Hey guys, I challenge you to plank. Let's just plank this all the way through the coronavirus, guys. Can't let yourself do it." Do you feel inspired to do that?
One time. I haven't seen that one time. If somebody said that on my friends list, I would unfollow them.
Someone put Systems Training Center and Marcus Kowal on official notice. Brandon's not interested in the plank challenge.
I'm just kidding.
The hard part for me, though, is that everybody and their mom, and I think that they're not wrong. We should stay somewhat fit. I even told my wife at one point I might jog, and she was like, "Ew." And I go, "I know. It's not who I am. I hate it." But all of these people are doing their part and very, very nicely helping to say, like, "Hey, here's, how you can do some solo drills." And there's a part of me that just feels really sad with that. Because Stephen Kessing was telling me, he's like, "Dude," he goes, "it's not an excuse not to do any training. You could still jog. You could still do kettlebells." And I like whispered to him off the air. I was like, "I do jiu-jitsu because I hate all of that." So
that's exactly right, Ralph. That's exactly the correct attitude to have. I couldn't encourage you anymore to think this way because that's why I do jiu-jitsu as well. I don't want to run. That's hard. I don't want to pick weights up. Those are heavy. It's too much work. So even when I'm doing
what are we supposed to do?
What are you doing?
Even
right
when
now, you just chasing kids.
This is why you have to get good at jiu-jitsu, so you don't have to do hard work. Even when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you just learn to be good at it. So now you should study tape. That's what you should really do. And if you have footage of yourself training, that's the best possible thing you can do is watch yourself roll and study that footage. Because when you watch your own training, you kind of like almost can feel it because you've already done it. So it's like, almost like you're doing it again. It's deeper. It's not as good as a real rep, but it's deeper than just watching somebody else train, if that makes any sense.
I agree with the second part. The first part of watching tape, I don't know if you experienced this. You've gone on to have a very nice commentating career. I've never commentated somebody's match and then magically gotten better at jiu-jitsu. So I have some reservation about that. There's stuff that I definitely want to drill when I'm like...
You don't watch them like a commentator. Pick out a certain part of the match that you're like, "Oh my God, that was incredible. What happened?" And then let's just rewind, fast forward, and let's just break it apart until you can feel it with your body. You know what I mean?
That was actually our Jubera Jiu-Jitsu is doing online videos, and one of the things most commonly asked about was for, "Hey, will you do more?" They were asking Jubera, like he's the black belt instructor out here, "Will you do more match commentary and explain what you see when you're watching two high-level grapplers?" Because
I
it's interesting.
think that's super, super valuable.
Now you're talking about us, which is like medium to low level grapplers, but I agree with you. I like watching tape. What are you doing right now to try and keep yourself sort of edgy and sharp? You're known for your defense and your just unbelievably careless attitude while in terrible positions. I don't mind telling you. You just seem not at all concerned. What are you doing during lockdown?
Well, not training too much. I'm staying mobile. Like, I've been down for the last 6 weeks, so it's really just business as usual for me. I'm supposed to be sitting right now. I had stem cells shot in my knee and my neck about coming on 7 weeks ago now. And so I'm supposed to just be kind of laying low, letting them do their thing for another couple of weeks. So really, I'm not doing too much, but I'm watching a lot of jiu-jitsu, I can tell you that. And I'm putting most of my energy into my business, just making sure that I can surf the tidal wave of like the economy as it changes, because it's going to change. It's going to move underneath us.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be stagnant and relying on the way it's always been. I want to be able to, move my business in the direction it needs to go for whatever comes next. So I've been putting a lot of attention into my business, actually.
That kind of gives a good segue into what we've been highlighting, which is I don't feel like you're just a Decatur, Alabama instructor anymore, because you're not. You're now much more of I would call you a global instructor, because I'm a part of your social media groups. I get to see the highlights and things. Is that what you mean when you mean business, instead of just the Decatur gym, which looks phenomenal and huge, and there appears to be a smoothie bar just from the photos I've seen? Raph and I genuinely, I will tell you, this is a little bit of like the FU of this virus mode. I am getting married, and Raph and I were like, should we go like to a jiu-jitsu destination and just like go have 2 days to go train somewhere? And Decatur's always on the list because you're there. And frankly, the fact that Drew Weatherhead and his Canadian things beat us to it just hurts every day. It's going to hurt every day for a while.
Drew has been twice.
What? Because jiu-jitsu, people. Because jiu-jitsu. And he's quite fun, despite being from Canada.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He's pretty good at jiu-jitsu, too.
That's how I would describe anyone from Canada. Pretty good at something. Who knows?
He's pretty good. He's a good black belt.
Yeah, actually, I do. We got to be careful how much smack we talk, because we just knew him as like a budding cartoonist 6 years ago. And then I'm seeing him twist under people and heel hook, and it's like, oh, shit. I got to stop making so many Canada jokes at Drew. Mental note.
I mean, to be fair, this show has been a launching point for a number of people. And I'm not saying we built Drew at all. Drew came to me.
He was nothing before us, Raph. He came here, we mocked him, and he said, I got to get tougher.
But like, I still remember in earnestness, because I met Drew before he was doing the website or the Instagram. And he was asking my opinion on a couple jokes. And he's like, what do you think of these two? And he sent me two. And I said, oh, one's pretty good. The other one's okay. And as he was saying that, he goes, oh, cool. Well, I've got 400 of them ready to go. And I was like, my God, man.
Oh, shit.
400? And this before he'd even launched the site. And I just remember being like, I think you're going to do well. Like, even if those jokes sucked, that the algorithm is going to be kind to you because you're consistent.
Well, it's just consistency, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's not just consistency, right? But
lo and behold,
part of it.
He's gone on to do, I think, some of the most creative work of our meme community. And whereas, like, I feel like some other memers will do very, very easy jokes. At least with Drew, I have a sense of like, oh, okay, I think he's going to take the outside shot on this, or I think he's going to go this way. And I'm pleasantly surprised by it. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you stick around long enough, Drew at one point, I remember him being like, hey man, thanks for bringing me on the show. And now I'm like, hey, you're going to come on the show? And he's like, ooh, sorry, I've got like 9, bye. So it's what you hope for and wish for your friend. And so, Brandon, what have you learned most about podcasting as you've been journeying and venturing your own way?
So I've learned a couple of things about podcasting, a couple of pretty good revelations, I think. Number one, that I think podcasting is, without question, the best way to build like your 1,000 true fans,
Mhm.
the people that are with you through thick and thin, like fans, you know what I mean? Super fans. So I think nothing does that like the format of podcasting. I also, for some reason, even with that knowledge and having experienced that, even with my own podcast, I have the hardest time doing a podcast. It's like, so I'll have a great groove going, and then I'm like, and I'm done. And then I'll groove, and then I'm done. You know what I mean? So that consistency of it, for some reason, podcasting I don't get as fired up about it as I do like the video formats. So those are the two big revelations for me about podcasts.
You do a lot of commentary. You do like fight companions is what they're more commonly referred to, where we've gotten to a point where you can pick and choose who you want to hear while you're watching fights. In some cases, you'd much rather listen to Joe and Eddie shit talk than you'd rather necessarily listen to a formal broadcast. And I can't wait till we're there with other sports. Do you consider fight companions part of that podcast versus live performance, or do you differentiate those?
I definitely differentiate those because I'm just going to watch the fight anyway. So if we're going to do a fight companion, I was going to watch the fight anyway and probably say the exact same things. I'll just lean closer to the mic this time. You know what I mean? There's no difference to me.
Okay. Because I feel similarly. I actually feel like podcasts, the pressure's so off that there's and maybe it's just because I listened to so much terrible radio growing up for 30 years, but podcasts to me are just such an interesting way to take a lot of the pressure of, if I want to hear Brandon, what a great way to go hear him talk. But that said, for teaching jiu-jitsu, there's obviously a visual element.
Yeah. Well, so like when I think of a podcast, I think of one that's I'm going to have to spend some time on this. I want to edit it and do a good intro and, write the description well. And I want to do a good job with it. Right. But when I think about a fight companion, I just go watch the fight, hit the record button. And then when the fight goes off, I hit the stop button and then I'm done with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's I guess why the big difference.
Side note,
as far as the content of them, I don't know.
Were we supposed to be trying to do a good job with the intros and the write-ups? Because I was shooting for passively mediocre, but good is a whole different.
Fun story is I don't know what Kevin's write-ups are going to be the next day. So it's a true experience for all of us to wake up in the morning and go, well, what did he write? Because sometimes I go, okay, we talked for that about 10 seconds, but yeah, that's in the show, technically. I don't know, because the hard part is like, so Kevin does his version, and then when I do all the social media and stuff for the website, then it's like I'm writing my recollection of it. And when we first started, I tried to be respectful of it and being like, oh, here's Kevin's take, here's my take. And I would write like this like little paragraph or 2 paragraphs. And then I'd be like, here's the experience of the podcast. Come to find out, no one gives a shit about that. But it was nice that I was trying. And the dumb part is like, and Brendan, I'm sure you understand this too. Over the years, people don't want these long descriptions. They basically want, tell me in like 40 words what the hell you guys did. And even then, I'm out at 20 words.
One thing I do appreciate, I do like when you have the show notes in the podcast with the timestamp. So especially like some of these guys I listen to a lot, like Rogan, for instance. So he's got somebody on that I don't like today, for instance, or not today, but the other day he had this last podcast. I can't remember who he had on, but I wasn't really interested in the topic. But I kind of wanted to hear Rogan's take on the whole coronavirus situation. You know what I mean? And so having some liner notes with a timestamp, I might would have listened to that one, but I didn't really care about the topic and I didn't want to sort through it,
Yeah. Well, he had Duncan Trussell on. God,
now that one I'm all over.
This guy do?
Duncan's my favorite.
Yes,
he does. Joe's, to your point though, he does like 2 hours and 47-minute podcasts. It's not a short cast. Shannon O'Loughlin. That's an awesome name.
Yeah, that's the one. I just was like, I don't care about this that much.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like the beauty of Joe's, and it's kind of why Kevin and I have become much better about just saying like, let's just do it in one take. Like, we're not, if I have a joke that doesn't land, who gives a fuck? If a guest maybe says something about a politician that probably won't land in about like 6 years. Who cares? I always think of what we do as like time capsules of what they were at the time. So in revisiting some of our catalog, sometimes I look down and I was like, is that what we were talking about that week? Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Can't take that back at that week. Doing the whole this challenge was what everybody was doing. So yeah, I guess we got to talk about that. Everybody danced in a circle on video, and that's what they did.
It's crazy. But I do think people, you're talking about just taking a shot in one take and then just let it be. I think that's what keeps a lot of jiu-jitsu people from we all know we're supposed to make a bunch of content if we want our businesses to thrive. And, we got to do something like that. It doesn't have to be social media. It could be an email. It could be a podcast. It could be whatever, but we got to do something to communicate our message. Right. So, but I think that a lot of the community, they're worried about being judged. And so they don't put themselves out there enough, which I think is kind of crazy. Like you got a black belt that's all self-conscious about putting himself out there for people to watch his technique. I mean, like, dude, you're a black belt. Let's go. Let's see it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I've always been entertained by what some people think of us, but never dictated by, like, the show has never changed because we've gotten a note from some white belt that's like, actually, I think the show should be like this. And I was like, well, actually, I think you should shut the fuck up and listen to our show or don't. Like, those are the two options. And we're people who we see good critiques. And every time I see something that I'm like, oh, that's legit, I'll tell Kevin. So we're not above it. But, like, most people just want to be shit posts. And I always feel bad for the black belts where I'm like, don't look online. Raph, don't.
I just got a note from Verbal Tap's HR department. They said all feedback is a gift and we welcome it. So
okay.
Your public statement, please.
Yeah, here's my official fucking statement. They could go suck it.
Especially in the early days when it was like, hey, the sound's way off. It's like, is it? Oh, thank you. That's yeah.
Here's the funny part is Kevin is so like, one of the things that we try to do is we try to be very forthcoming about what we've learned with people. And Kevin will always talk about like, oh man, it took a while for our sound to really come through because we had a different way of recording when we first started because they weren't as complex as they are now and you can get away with some stuff. And I look at him and I always say, Kev, those early episodes were still recorded better than some of the people today. And that's troubling.
Technology's helped us out.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very hard, man. Like, it's not very hard to have a podcast and put it out, especially right now. If you got an iPhone and what is it, Anchor? I think that's what Scaff uses. Have y'all?
Yeah.
Hey, dude, y'all should definitely have Scaff on, dude. I know
we have.
Do what?
Yeah, we've brought Scaff on. He's a friend of the show.
Oh, good. That's good. I didn't know that. I think I missed that one.
I think you did too, and I'm a little
all
embarrassed.
your friends, Brandon. We're coming after all of them. There's a 10th B group. We're just gonna find them.
When was Scaff on? When was this?
Scaff also did Over Under Kevin.
I do remember that.
I wonder if he remembers it. At least you remember one of the Over Under Kevins. Finally, a memory's been triggered.
And part of the appeal of bringing him on was, listen, Scaff, can you repeat what your mentor has done, or are you going to be the dead weight? And I don't remember if he won or lost, honestly, but he did pretty well. And honestly, this is part of the beauty of booking people is sometimes somebody like Scaff, we always say we don't bring people on who are really good at analyzing fights because I hate preview shows. But with Scaff, I knew we would actually have somebody who would know what they were talking about on the preview side of it. And I was excited for that. Normally I'll bring in people who are good at shit talking and not so good at fight picking because I think that's funny. But with Scaff, I felt like he was so good at analyzing jiu-jitsu. I said that'll translate over. So I was geeked out to hear him analyze with us. And Scaff's always been great to us. And I think
he's doing such a good job with his podcast. Like he has those little short daily kind of jiu-jitsu podcasts. And he does a great job. Like one he did either yesterday or today about the history of ADCC. It's like, I mean, if you're a jiu-jitsu dork, he's got an awesome podcast for dorks. of jiu-jitsu. It's the best.
Hell yeah. And he's also, I mean, we made a healthy amount of jokes about you during that podcast, but that's just going to happen.
That's natural.
That's natural. Brandon, what is your, I guess, so I know everybody's kind of suspended classes while we're in this wait and see mode, but are you moving towards, there was a while where you were doing a ton of competing. Now, rightfully, you're kind of transitioning to more of the media side. Is this the new norm for you in terms of how much we're seeing you? Because it's weird when I start seeing people I've just casually trained with sharing your videos. That's new for me. Obviously, people we know and interact with that like are our friends, it's like, oh, of course they're sharing his stuff. But when I see people that I didn't know knew you, or like, you got to check out these videos. What are you transitioning the business into? What can we expect more of as you keep developing content?
Well, the school's not going to go anywhere for sure. So that'll always be my home base, because I'm just trying to organize my life in such a way that I'm just going to wake up and do jiu-jitsu every day for the vast majority of my day.
Even to the point where you're getting that Dirk Nowitzki cell replacement therapy. That's like something Kobe did in Germany.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to do that too. That would be great. But
you should share
but
that
yeah,
stuff,
so the school is going to stay in place.
The
school is going to stay in place, and then I'm going to be on your phone more. Hopefully, that's what I'm aiming for. I do want to get the podcast kicked back up, but I just gotta build some discipline and some more structure around it. I do well when I have like rules in place for myself. I don't want nobody else to put the rules on, but if I can make the rules, that would be dope. And I don't have any good like podcast discipline figured out. So
Can I stem in, sir?
Yeah.
Here's what I think you do. I think you leave the podcasts alone because, not that, I mean, we don't have a vested interest in it. So
fuck off.
No
we
big deal.
do that. Get off our corner. Are you not famous enough with your vocals and your guitar and your ability to escape arm bars at ease? The rest of us are trying to do things with our voice over here. Raph, listen, this is not a time to be polite. This is episode 400. We just keep calling people, tell them to stop their goddamn podcast.
Hold on. HR
is written
talking to me and saying, they basically said, Kev, maybe you need to chill and we'll have a meeting with you later. I don't know what that means, but I will say this, Brandon, I think that, let us do the podcast because what else do we have? But why don't you continue doing, I think that you were onto something with the jiu-jitsu side, fight companions. I think that you should carry on those. Like, I love doing those as well, but like, I feel like you're onto something. And I think that it even on that with the less is more approach is just being like, man, talk about all the work you have to do these things. Do that and entertain people. But that's just
okay. I take that advice. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I do feel that the podcast is missing from the whole portfolio, though. If you know what I'm saying. Like there's a piece of the empire. There's a large piece of attention that I'm not standing in front of right there, and I can feel that it's missing in the empire.
No, I don't see that. I see the empire is
using the word empire. It's a conquering term.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying already? Like that's why I lashed out.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to plug all of your different stuff real quick. I sang it briefly, but it is BrandonMC.Ninja. You can find Brandon Mccaghren all over the interwebs. Google I Dominated Eddie, and you will quickly find the footage where was he a wrestler that wandered in? What was his background when he decided to go in and just challenge you one night in a strip mall?
He just had some high school wrestling, not even like vast amounts, just some.
That is if only he could have known he was walking into a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu gym. That would have been really helpful content. You don't see those videos as much anymore. I think the context and like the global awareness.
That was the last time it ever happened.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
Well,
since.
probably.
I mean, to everyone,
because
right?
somebody.
We used to get a ton of those. Like the most recent one was from a few years ago. I forget who it was, but it was a gi match. Not a gi match, but the instructor he attacked was in a gi, and then he was like, "I'll fight the girl too." But you have one of the most authentic ones that is just so fantastic, especially with the security footage. It's got a little paranormal activity vibe. But you just choke him out repeatedly, and then as the song alludes to, you did consensually penetrate him briefly. You wet willied him with one of your chokes.
The only thing that makes me laugh is
I don't like the way you described what I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, okay.
This is 2020. I don't know what to tell you. I said consensually. He started
I was
it.
about to
Yeah.
say, Brandon,
I guess
when
you're
this
not wrong.
dude files a Me Too claim in the year 2028, you're going to have a lot of witnesses going against you on this one.
It's gonna be great. Yeah, we all saw it.
But I will say this. The one thing that I never told you that I thought was the funniest thing to me was there was no visuals or no footage of this, but I for sure knew the minute that guy left to the minute you got to the security cam, you had the biggest grin on your face because you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this footage.
You know what? That's actually not true. I totally forgot about it. And my student, he's still with me now. He's a purple belt now, but his name is Beowulf. So shout out to my boy Beowulf. He goes, dude, we should get the security footage, because we had never done that. We had never even thought of it. I just thought it was just another dude that came in and got challenged and got beat up, and it was just another in a long line. But Beowulf, to his credit, that was his idea.
That's fantastic. Beowulf gets some extra credit here. Brandon,
Yep, Chris Burchell.
We love you dearly. You're a valued, just an unbelievably supportive member of the jiu-jitsu community, the entertainment jiu-jitsu community, which we humbly like to consider ourselves a part of. Cannot thank you enough for coming on episode 400 and taking some time out of your social distancing to let us bother you and sing to you, if we can call that singing. Sing to you.
We can. I feel like it was a successful songwriting and performance venture on your part, and I salute you, sir.
Came from the heart, and I'll get that auto-tune going, and we'll get it a little more refined in the garage band. All right. Verbal Tap fans, the one, the only, Brandon Mccaghren.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is, please note, the new number is